With a traditional combustion engine, you need more air to make more power. The amount of power a combustion engine produces depends on how much fuel it can burn and how good it is at turning that heat into mechanical force. Now, with a naturally aspirated engine, the only way for the engine to get air is through the suction created on the downstroke of each piston. But it can only suck so much air. This is where forced induction comes in. You are forcing more air into the intake. The more air you have, the more fuel you can burn and the more power you can make. Now, the most common form of forced induction is turbochargers. And turbochargers are great. They sound awesome and they can make a small engine produce the same amount of power as a big one. But there has always been one negative with turbochargers: turbo lag. You see, a turbo spins from exhaust gases, which means when a car is low in its rev range, the turbo is spinning at a very low rate and not really adding any power. In other words, you have to get into boost before the turbo starts having a positive effect on your car's performance. Now, there are ways to decrease turbo lag. For instance, you can add 2 small turbos that will spin up faster than one big one. Other options are running a sequential turbo setup where you have 1 small turbo and 1 big one. So the small one spins up first and then the big will take over in the higher revs. Oh, and then you get the new turbo technologies used in Formula 1 cars, where they have a small electric motor mounted on the shaft between the turbine and the compressor wheel. Now, this system does eliminate turbo lag, but it still has its challenges. Heat. You see, all those electrical components have to stay alive in a crazy hot environment. So not a great system for day-to-day use. On to Porsche and their new creation. So Porsche's answer to turbo lag is using electric turbochargers, but in a completely different way to what Formula 1 is using. You see, the F1 car's compressor wheel and turbine is still connected via a shaft. Porsche is doing it completely differently. The hot side and the cold side of the turbo will be working independently from one another. In other words, the engine speed doesn't affect the compressor wheel speed. So exactly how will this system work? On the exhaust side, you'll have a pair of smaller turbines spooling up basically as soon as the engine starts. Now, these 2 wheels will be connected to a generator instead of to the compressor wheel. As they spin up and as you go through the rev range, all they will do is they will power the generator, which in turn will charge up the battery pack. This battery pack then will power a high RPM electric motor, which will spin your big compressor wheel. In other words, you can have a really big turbo with no turbo lag, so you can have a really big compressor wheel that will be spun by a big electric motor. Now cut to me, I'll try and explain it visually now. Okay, so this is the traditional turbo inside. This is the inner of a turbo, the core, and you've got a compressor wheel and a turbine wheel. So as you see, when I turn the turbine, the entire thing spins. So my compressor will spin when the turbine spins. So that's how a turbo works. Exhaust gases spin this wheel and this one will spin. Now, in the Formula 1 cars, you've got an electric motor sitting here which will help it spin when the RPM is too low to spin it. So the electric motor in the F1 system will just help with this when the engine doesn't produce enough exhaust gases to spin it. The electric system will take over and it will spin it instead of the exhaust gas is spinning it. Now, Porsche's answer to this is not having these 2 connected. So you'll have 2 little wheels on the one side that's spinning, powering a generator, and this wheel in the front will be completely independent from the rest of the system. So as soon as you put your foot down, the electric motor will spin this thing, no matter where your RPM is. So in other words, no lag. Now, I hope all of that made sense. If you found this video informative, please leave a like and subscribe, and let me know what you think about this new technology. Maybe you are old school and you like turbo lag. Like, I don't mind it. I think it's kind of cool. It's like it hits you and it's surprising stuff. But like in a practical sense or around a racetrack, it just makes sense not to have turbo lag. It's unpredictable and you lose time while the car has to get into boost. But let me know down below what you think. If you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe. I'll check you guys in the next one. Cheers,